The art of the decoy is on full display in North Idaho. Methodically placing and throwing out an assortment of wooden waterfowl that he has created, St. Mary's resident Frank Werner groups his creations in front of a standing pole blind. A self-described avid hunter, artist, opera buff, and cross-cultural observer, Frank takes aim with his finger perched on the shutter of his camera, intent this time on shooting images.
I have to divide my time by season. There's art season and then there's duck season. And art season also includes carving season. I'm going to change that radius, but right in the main centered part of the bird, I want that roundness, because that's basically what I think they look like.
Standing behind one of his creations, Frank sizes up a chunk of white pine that is destined to become a sizable goose. Carving away with Swiss-made hand tools, bit by bit, fat slivers of wood are pared away, destined for the floor.
Cutting with a chisel, you just can't push it forward. With your pushing hand, which I'm right-handed, the chisel's going to have to move in that direction, not down. So in order to get it into wood, you have to put downward pressure on the front of it. A lot of people will say, well, that must take a lot of patience. And I said, no, patience is waiting for duck season to open. What it takes in the meantime is will to make it happen. Patience is just waiting for something. I know, sometimes I may spend 60 hours a week carving, sometimes I may spend one day carving. I'm not driven to do it every day. I used to. A few years ago, and I turn out 3 or 4 dozen birds a year. I don't feel that necessity anymore.
Beginning in 1974, after spending 20 years in the United States Marine Corps, Frank began making decoys out of necessity, using woodworking skills honed since young adulthood.
I went and sent off for a dozen plastic redhead decoys. And when they came, I just shuddered. I said, I'm not even going to put these in the water. I'm just going to yard sell them. They just turned me off so badly. And I said, well, I can do better than this. I didn't have any skills at that time as far as the painting or knowing what a bird should look like. But I had the will, and when you have the will, I guess this is true for any artist. If you want to do it, you have a strong enough will, you'll make it happen. Because that art is a compulsion. In fact, everybody's creative. Everybody's born creative. It's the difference between artists and other people is the artists are driven to take that creative intuition and forge it into some tangible reality or forge it into some intellectual reality.
Through the sharing of knowledge from his writings and photography, Frank passes on his expertise to a bevy of beginning carvers, bent on learning from a master waterfowl decoy artist.
Most of the audience are beginning carvers. I got to put my head in the position of somebody who hasn't done much of this, has no familiarity with work, and actually try and get him inside of my eyes, which is why when I photograph stuff from my articles, there's hands in there all the time in my carving. Dancing in the mud, as I call it.
By drawing a clear line between the traditional art world and the folk art world, Frank seems content to while away his time creating useful tools that serve a purpose for the hunter as well as the collector.
9 months out of the year, I would say these decoys are a traditional art. During hunting season, they become part of a waterfowling community. You can't define folk art by what it looks like. It's where it's consummated. I'm painting for something that pleases my eye, and some of my abstract stuff pleases me more than something highly detailed. In fact, as I grow older, I get more and more abstract. I used to carve wing tips. I've quit doing that. These colors all used to be blended and run in together, likewise the colors here. And what I've done is reduce the upper body to 2 colors. If I was doing it with detail or realistically, I'd have about 12 different colors in there. But interesting enough, when you get 30, 40 feet away from it, all these lines blur out anyway.
With hundreds of decoys over the years in his rearview mirror, Frank is content to enjoy his carving season until it's hunting season again.
To me, it really doesn't matter. When I can't hunt ducks right now, okay? It's not duck season. So it's still art season or carving season. It's an aesthetic investigation. The smell of the paint, the feel of the canvas, the resistance of the brush. It's everything. It's I don't know if it's a draw. The draw is getting some intuition in my head of what this thing ought to look like. And then finding that spot in the wood, like in the carving, finding that spot. And I look at, did I find it? No, well, get my pencil out, make some marks, and take some more wood away. I try and do something that looks good to me.
If you have an idea for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.